Kyiv, March the 12th, 2022. It's day 17 of the Ukraine war. A drone goes down between two rows of houses. With a wingspan of just over 1 meter and bearing no visible weapons systems, it appears inconspicuous. Its crash is almost lost in the horror of the Russian invasion. And yet, it is of great significance. That's because it is a Kub BLA, a suicide drone that can be controlled by artificial intelligence. It circles autonomously above the target area, ready to swoop down at the right moment. It is the harbinger of a technological quantum leap that will change war forever. Military operations launched in seconds, autonomously calculated drone strikes, AI deployed in the air, at sea and on land. What once sounded like science fiction will soon be reality. AI is not only changing the way we drive and the way we generate text, it is also transforming the weapons we use to make war. Despite international efforts to regulate them, the rise of autonomous weapons seems unstoppable. Newly sparked conflicts are pouring money into the arms industry. Tech-minded thinkers have been warning us for years about a looming loss of control.
The danger of AI is much greater than the danger of nuclear warheads, by a lot.
Could AI create a situation where a drone can select the target itself?
I think we shouldn't allow that.
Well, can it be done?
Sure.
Thanks.
The question is how you harness it. He who harnesses the AI will win.
It is extremely powerful, and it's going to have to be dealt with.
And it is not only in war that we will encounter these systems. Pandemics, civil unrest, and crumbling democracies are the breeding grounds for technologies that we've only known in our darkest fictional dystopias.
Artificial intelligence feels like another escalation of militarization within US police departments. We already have them functioning like occupying armies, and they've taken that role very seriously.
Machines are supposed to solve conflicts that humans cannot. Experts are fiercely debating where this will lead us.
We have the power to create these weapon systems, as well as systems that can do something completely different, addressing climate change, for example.
E noi come umani ci aspettiamo che un algoritmo sia preciso il 99% delle volte, ma quell'1% delle volte non siamo in grado di perdonare l'errore, mentre perdoniamo un umano che sbaglia il 40% delle volte.
It would be irresponsible not to develop it. This technology can be much more precise and avoid civilian casualties. And I'm not saying that we're already there, but in some cases it can make your warfare more humane.
Das war ja die große Hoffnung, dass der Krieg quasi sauberer werden kann. Das Problem ist, Kriege werden immer schmutzig bleiben und es wird immer dazu kommen, dass im Krieg Menschen sterben.
AI is supposed to make weapons systems faster, more precise, and more efficient. The price is less control. It's a trade-off governments are well aware of. But none of them want to fall behind. Because the cards on the international stage are being reshuffled. France, in particular, is pushing for an independent European security architecture. It's also home to a highly productive defense industry. Nexter is a French defense group that manufactures a wide range of modern military technology. Nexter's robotics division is dedicated to the production of robots for the army, firefighters, and special police units.
La France et l'armée française a clairement fait le choix d'exploiter la robotique pour différentes applications. Le transport logistique, la reconnaissance, bien entendu des robots armés.
In addition to spy robots, Nexter also builds larger robotic vehicles, like the armed Optio X-20. It's not an easy task, as the control of land-based robots poses great challenges.
La plupart des robots qui sont utilisés actuellement par les opérationnels, les militaires, la police ou le secours sont des robots télécommandés. Donc l'enjeu, c'est d'augmenter l'autonomie de ces robots, faire en sorte qu'ils puissent faire de plus en plus de tâches seuls. Et pour ça, on va faire appel, entre autres, à l'intelligence artificielle.
La première chose qui peut arriver sur un théâtre d'opération est que le GPS soit brouillé. On considère ça comme un acquis, que le GPS ne va pas fonctionner et que donc le robot sur le terrain ne sera pas capable de se localiser à partir d'un système de navigation global. C'est pourquoi on travaille en ce sens à développer des fonctions qui vont lui permettre de se repérer dans un environnement même local.
Modern conflicts show that jammers offer one of the most efficient countermeasures against unmanned weapons systems. To ensure their autonomy, future machines will be designed to recognize landmarks, buildings, roads and distances, navigating just as humans do.
L'idée, c'est bien d'avoir une répartition des rôles entre l'homme et le robot. Effectivement, un niveau de relation ou de supervision avec l'opérateur de plus en plus limité, avec une précision néanmoins, c'est que pour des applications militaires, on ne va pas forcément chercher l'autonomie complète. Les militaires veulent garder le contrôle de la mission.
Despite enormous progress, the functionality of large land robots is still limited, and mistakes could be fatal. But even skeptics see the signs of the times. New conflicts are creating new realities for which Europeans are ill-prepared. Markus Reisner is a colonel in the Austrian armed forces. His precise analyses of the Ukraine war have made him a sought-after expert. He has been deployed to numerous crisis regions around the world. And he's gained valuable experience with unmanned systems at the German drone company EMT. In 2018, he published a book on robotic warfare.
Da gibt es ja diesen berühmten Begriff der Revolution of Military Affairs, also RMA. Weil wenn man auch ein bisschen historisch zurückblickt, dann sieht man, dass sehr wohl auch Waffensysteme ganz entscheidend die Art und Weise der Kriegsführung verändert haben, wie das Flugzeug als Beispiel. Ja. Oder auch natürlich die Atomwaffen.
Spurred on by the promise of increasingly efficient weapons systems, more and more countries are striving to automate their armies. Amid this new scramble, world powers are taking their claim to leadership all the more seriously. And the world's leader in AI development is still the USA. For several years, Jane Pinellis was the head of the Artificial Intelligence Testing Division at the US Department of Defense. She also works at the Johns Hopkins University Lab for Applied Physics, a research institution with close ties to the Pentagon.
So AI, when you're talking about how it's used today, it really depends on how you define it, right? We can make an argument that if a system that just uses AI for some part of its functioning, if that's an autonomous system, then I would argue that AI has been used in the DoD for 70 years or so, right? Like a torpedo, when you say, go here, and then it autonomously figures out how to get there. Where we are today, where we're pretty comfortable, is machines recognizing patterns and data. A machine picking out what a truck looks like and being able to point to trucks in various scenarios or other types of vehicles. But we're already moving into the area where machines can select and perform appropriate behaviors. If you look at the Israeli Harpy drone, for instance, the human points it in a direction. It says, go to this area. And then within that area, it is capable of finding enemy radar and then targeting that radar independently now of the human.
It is similar to suicide technology currently used in Ukraine. For years, there has been speculation about whether it could be combined with facial recognition software.
Where we want to go as we progress is for autonomous perceptions, machines that are able to reason. If you have a human that is being tracked next to a building and then the human disappears, we would like the machine to be able to describe that the human went into the building and that the number of people in that building is now greater by 1. Eventually, we would like for machines to actually be able to learn without our supervision, perhaps even figure out what they should learn and navigate and learn independently.
In the near future, machines are expected to become full-fledged team members and also cooperate with each other. Research is being conducted on drone swarms in particular. They could significantly increase an army's offensive power. The progress in the area of cooperation is enormous. What is much more difficult to teach machines are the ethics that go along with it. Ah Jung-moon is a roboticist at McGill University in Montreal. She conducts research on human-machine interactions and runs the RAISE lab, which focuses on robot ethics.
Lethal autonomous weapon systems can be used to physically harm human beings in indignifying ways, in mass, at scale. When we are looking at the act of killing someone or taking somebody's life, some people might argue that dying is the same thing regardless of the manner in which you die. Some people might argue, no, that's not true. There is an undignified way versus not.
With ethical issues often taking a back seat, Ah Jung-moon has been pushing for stronger regulation of autonomous weapons for years. It is a race against time.
Lethal autonomous weapons, I believe, are real threats. I believe they are threats of today's warfare. I believe that it will become even worse than we have the imaginations to think about today. That is also why I think regulatory schemes and leadership is really needed, because we need a global movement, bottom-up agreement that such a future is not the kind that we want to envision.
In tanti dicono che non è un'arma. Non è un'arma perché non ti uccide, però, non lo so, forse la distinzione più che altro è filosofica, perché non è la pallottola che ti colpisce, però è lo strumento che dice alla pallottola dove andare. La grey area c'è dovunque, però questa è una grey area che si muove a seconda dei valori della società dove certi strumenti vengono utilizzati.
Alberto Pelliccione is co-founder of Reactor, a cybersecurity company recently acquired by IBM. Reactor uses artificial intelligence to stop hacker attacks. Pelliccione believes AI can make the world safer. But he knows software can be used differently. It's a realization he came to during his time with one of Europe's most notorious hacking firms.
Hacking Team era un'azienda che si occupava di sviluppare un cosiddetto vettore di infezione, uno spyware. Poteva essere installato su computer o telefoni, server, per acquisire informazioni, quindi era un tool a tutti gli effetti di spionaggio. Potevano essere i file in arrivo, i messaggi, le mail, le foto dalla fotocamera, la posizione GPS, tutto quello che genera un device. I clienti erano fondamentalmente forze dell'ordine ed agenzie di intelligence e venivano utilizzati per operazioni di sicurezza nazionale, counterterrorism, controllo del traffico umano, controllo dei traffici di droga. Quantomeno per i primi 3 anni, il feeling, ma non soltanto mio, ma credo di poter parlare per tutto il team, era quello che stessimo facendo qualcosa di buono, di far parte di un organismo che aiutava a rendere la società migliore o quantomeno più sicura. Poi il mercato si sposta, il mercato di Hacking Team si sposta verso quei paesi che al tempo ancora erano molto indietro sullo sviluppo di simili tecnologie. Paesi che anche avevano valori morali ed etici estremamente diversi dai nostri, e fu lì, almeno personalmente per me, il grande cambio.
More and more reports surfaced linking Hacking Team software to operations against activists and journalists.
Prima avevo un riscontro sul fatto che il mio lavoro aveva un impatto positivo, poi ho cominciato ad avere riscontri che il mio lavoro aveva il 90% impatti negativi, perché sulla stampa finirono alcune delle cose, ma internamente chiaramente noi ne vedevamo anche altre. Personalmente non mi sentivo più bene con me stesso. Abbiamo cominciato poi uno dopo l'altro a lasciare.
Just as it did 10 years ago in the cyberweapons market, a wave of change is rolling through the robotics market today. That change is driven by emerging tech and a new global security situation.
In den USA ist das mal schön auf den Punkt gebracht worden. Es ist, dass quasi weder die Army noch die Marines in den letzten Jahrzehnten es für nötig befunden haben, einen Blick in den Himmel zu werfen. Wenn die zum Einsatz kamen, dann war klar, dass der Himmel den Amerikanern gehört. Und diese Zeit ist einfach vorbei. Dieses gleiche Problem haben wir auch in Deutschland, das haben alle NATO-Staaten und da ist ziemlich viel Druck auf dem Kessel, um hier schnell Abhilfe zu schaffen.
The Pentagon has drawn numerous defense contractors into its orbit. Among them is Shield AI.
What does a military in the year 2030 look like? AI should be piloting and maneuvering everything, right? There should be an AI pilot maneuvering aircraft. There should be an AI pilot maneuvering destroyers, cruisers, aircraft carriers. There should be an AI pilot maneuvering submarines.
Shield AI is an American defense startup. It was launched in 2015 with $100,000 in capital. One of the founders is Brandon Seng.
Shield AI is building the world's best AI pilot. Now, what is an AI pilot? You can think of an AI pilot as an AI that commands and maneuvers an aircraft. Very similar to self-driving technology, but we're applying self-driving technology to the aviation market. The AI executes the mission completely on its own. It has a higher level task, and it figures out how to execute that. A perfect example was our very first product, which was a quadcopter with our AI pilot, which we call HiveMind. It would go inside buildings where you would, there's no GPS inside buildings. You'd lose communications quickly depending on the size of the building. But HiveMind would fly the aircraft through all the doors, through different windows. When communications was available, it would tell the people what was inside before they went in. And it's doing this by fusing a lot of different sensors, processing that sensor information, and then reasoning about what it should do.
A former Navy SEAL, Tseng has tailored his product specifically for the military. Shield AI secured its first Pentagon contract just 1 year after launching. Air Force projects followed, and new offices in the United Arab Emirates. Now Shield AI plans to integrate its AI pilot into full-scale fighter jets by the end of 2023.
AI enables an aircraft to maneuver without the need for GPS, without the need for communications, and then it can do all this with superhuman ability. Fighter pilots can only withstand so many Gs. An unmanned system is not bound by some of the human limitations that we have.
Today, the company is estimated to be worth $2.3 billion. The market potential is enormous. While countless AI programs are underway in the USA, Europe, and Germany in particular, have so far been hesitant. In the field of related technologies, however, German products are in high demand. Hensoldt sensor technology can be found in numerous weapon systems, from tanks and helicopters to aircraft and border protection systems. It also builds massive radar systems for combat ships. The company is probably best known for its contributions to the Eurofighter and the Iris-T SLM, an air defense system that was recently supplied to Ukraine.
Künstliche Intelligenz spielt für uns eine ganz bedeutende Rolle. Daten zu verarbeiten, haben wir immer seit Dekaden Algorithmen genutzt. Künstliche Intelligenz sind noch cleverere und schnellere Algorithmen.
Future fighter jets will increasingly be integrated into a network of other systems.
Wir können aber auch Informationen von anderen Quellen gewinnen. Wir haben heutzutage Millionen von Sensoren. Jeder Mensch, der ein Handy in der Hand hat und ein Bild macht und das in Instagram postet, hat für uns Informationen gewonnen. Und mit unseren Systemen können wir diese ganzen verfügbaren Informationen auch das Richtige extrahieren und auch an unseren Kunden zur Verfügung stellen.
The amount of data involved is mind-boggling. Connected weapons systems, such as the FCAS, would be virtually inconceivable without AI. That makes artificial intelligence indispensable for armaments manufacturers. But is it also reliable?
When we assume that robots can be the perfect rule followers, we also assume that the real world is as clean and easy for us to operate in as simulation environments. In reality, when it snows in Montreal, autonomous cars and using sensors there, not a very good idea. In the first semester of my mechatronics engineering training was really about putting Lego robots together and learning what a robot is. Essentially, sensors, processing, and actuators. Gradually, I learned that I can actually build very weird things and nobody will tell me anything about it. If I were to hook up a sensor and then get it to shoot a gun or stab somebody, there are no rules against building such a system. And I thought that was really strange.
Because of her concerns, Ah Chung-moon decided against entering the robotics industry after graduation. Instead, she dedicated herself to fighting for the regulation of autonomous weapons. She works as an expert for the Canadian government and advises the United Nations on its regulatory process. Although academia and civil society organizations advocate for greater controls on autonomous weapons, it is often difficult to convince governments of the dangers. While smaller states in particular are arguing for stricter regulation of killer robots, world powers such as China, India, Russia, and the United States have other interests. It seems as if we're moving toward a new, ever more aggressive arms race.
Today, the PRC is the pacing challenge for the Department of Defense. Only through the integration of AI and related technologies will we gain both an information advantage and operational advantage on rapidly accelerating future battlefields.
By 2025, they will be better than us, and by 2030, they will dominate the industries of AI.
China, from what I understand, has some approaches that America is not necessarily willing to implement, right? I think the fears of killer robots are probably a little bit ahead of our time. We probably don't need to worry about that quite yet. My concern is getting ready fast enough. I don't think we need to be the fastest. I think we need to be fast enough, and we need to be better. People worry so much about making mistakes that it takes a very long time for us to get things right sometimes. We're used to testing, tanks or helmets or rifles and being able to test them under every condition that's of interest. That's no longer the case for AI. And so technology that is obviously more risky, we have to become more willing to accept risk. That's another thing that keeps me up at night, is that we won't be able to take advantage of this amazing and transformative technology because we have these processes that were put in place for good reason, but perhaps it's time for change.
Ukraine, March the 17th, 2023, the 387th day in the war. The result of Iranian-made Russian suicide drones. For months, there have been attempts to wear down both Ukraine's infrastructure and its people. Further east, trenches crisscross the countryside. They are frighteningly reminiscent of World War I. The Ukrainians defend their country against Russian superiority by any means necessary. Commercially available drones and robots are becoming a crucial part of their fight.
If you're under attack and you want to protect your country, your family, your community, who wouldn't look for an edge to protect? But at the end of the day, we also forget that the technology can be an equalizer. One of the unique things about the topic of lethal autonomous weapons is that it depends so much on software. So unlike nuclear war, where we can trace specific kind of physical substances that are required to develop these systems, lethal autonomous systems, they run on software that can be downloaded. You just need some internet connection or some sort of connection of any sort, and you should be able to actually deploy the software of your systems anywhere in the world. Well, how are you going to do expert control of that? The power of software and the transferability or modifiability of these software becomes a big game changer. And it also poses the issue that it doesn't have to be states entering into warfare. It can be any kind of terrorist groups getting their hands on hardware with software on board, and they'll be able to do much harm. Think about autonomous cars. Anybody can hack into a system and use it as a bomb-carrying weapon in the middle of a dense city. Who's going to stop that?
The new weapons revolution poses many new dangers. Intelligent software makes technology more accessible, but also equally vulnerable. And it's not just machines that are vulnerable to hackers. It's also the human brain.
La nostra vita si è gradualmente spostata nel digitale negli ultimi 15 anni. Sicuramente il nostro telefono sa più di qualunque altra persona ci conosca e questo crea un grande problema. Noi viviamo in un mondo che non voglio dire è guidato dall'AI, ma già adesso l'AI ha un impatto sulla nostra vita enorme. Perché l'AI è quella che ci suggerisce cosa guardiamo sul nostro streaming service, cosa compriamo online. L'AI ci permea dappertutto, è semplicemente non visibile a chi è al di fuori dei lavori.
After leaving Hacking Team, Alberto Pelliccione decided to develop software purely for defense purposes. But while 10 years ago, data theft and surveillance were the main concerns, AI is currently revolutionizing an adjacent field: cognitive warfare, the hacking of our minds. At its core, the concept is not new. Whether it's propaganda, advertising, or psyops, it's all about influencing the mind, in war as in peace. What is new is the efficiency of modern algorithms and how they are changing our perception. The machine doesn't care whether we are customers or enemies.
Brain is and will be the 21st century battlescape in many ways. End of story.
Targeting, deep fakes, AI-generated disinformation. Humans are data food, and a hungry algorithm can never have enough.
In the 21st century, warfare is about winning the information, the decision space, either before or during a conflict. This is the deciding factor.
Das Wesentliche ist, wir alle sind Kriegsteilnehmer, auch jetzt. Weil durch das, was wir konsumieren, bilden wir uns eine Meinung und durch diese Meinungsbildung beeinflussen wir, in welche Richtung es weitergeht. Ja?
The more the algorithm knows about us and feeds on us, the more it can target us. It is therefore no coincidence that populous countries with weak privacy policies are living laboratories for developers.
La Cina è probabilmente uno dei paesi che sta dedicando più risorse allo studio dell'intelligenza artificiale e che stanno avendo enormi risultati. Se vogliamo fare gli algoritmi su studi di cosa fanno le persone, il bacino di popolazione della Cina è enorme. Con più di 1 miliardo di persone loro hanno accesso ad una quantità di dati pazzesca che gli consente di trainare algoritmi che sono estremamente complicati.
Complex models of human behavior also open up new ways of waging war. The Chinese army is already talking about how AI could be used to take Taiwan without the use of force.
Lawmakers from Taiwan's ruling party accuse China of conducting so-called cognitive warfare through its social media to influence young people here.
These regimes actively conduct influence operations to erode our confidence in democratic institutions and freedom.
Russia also knows about the value of the cognitive domain. Doubts are being deliberately stoked to undermine popular support for Western arms deliveries to Ukraine.
Хреном, понимаете, как у нас в народе говорят.
Of course, the West counters with its own information campaigns. But in countries of the global South, they are met with historic skepticism.
wir als quasi Bestandteil eines demokratischen westlichen Wertesystems neigen dazu, unsere Kriege als sauber zu betrachten. Die Frage ist, ob die davon betroffen sind, das auch so sehen. Ja, das Ergebnis erkennen wir ja dann immer wieder. Ich habe ja insgesamt einige Einsätze schon absolviert. Ich war also ein paar Mal am Balkan im Einsatz. Da war ich in Afghanistan, im Mali, im Tschad, Zentralafrika. Da war ich auch kurz einmal im Irak. Und was halt sich da durchzieht, ist, dass egal welche Rolle du hast, es vor allem auch um die Kommunikation geht, die Art und Weise, wie du kommunizierst und auch die gegenseitige Wahrnehmung und Wertschätzung. Also Afghanistan war zum Beispiel so ein Moment, wo ich erkannt habe, dass quasi der Schlüssel nur im Umstand der ansässigen Bevölkerung zu finden ist, wenn man jemals in der Lage sein möchte, dieses Land in einer Art und Weise zu befrieden. Ich war damals eingesetzt im Bereich PsyOps. Da geht es also darum, zu versuchen, zu verstehen, wie denkt der andere und wo sind quasi Ansatzpunkte, um ihn davon zu überzeugen, dass die eigene Präsenz eine positive ist. Und da war es immer schon auch das Problem, dass man gesehen hat, dass eigentlich auch die Widerstandsbewegungen oder in diesem Fall die Taliban ganz gezielt versucht haben, da einen Keil hineinzutreiben. Ja. Man führt zum Beispiel einen Anschlag durch und durch diesen Anschlag und aufgrund des Umstandes, dass quasi der Staat, der seine Soldaten dorthin geschickt hat, sehr wenig bereit ist, Opfer zu ertragen, werden die Soldaten gezwungen, sich von der Bevölkerung zu entfernen.
Armored convoys, fortress-like field camps, and drones are becoming the means of communication for the international alliance. Humans are increasingly replaced by machines as the face of Western values.
Lead off with Hellfire, follow up with 30 millimeter, left and right. Roger. Okay. Clear to fire. You're clear to fire.
Da gibt es ja von Herfried Münkler den super Ausdruck quasi der postheroischen Gesellschaft. Ne? Der sagt, die Gesellschaft ist also nicht mehr bereit, quasi so wie früher heldenhaft quasi Kämpfer in den Krieg zu schicken. Ne? Und die Drohnen, die werden natürlich von der Bevölkerung aus einem gewissen Blickpunkt der Hilflosigkeit negativ wahrgenommen und der Hass steigert sich noch auf den Besatzer, dem man quasi nicht Herr werden kann, weil er doch die ganze Zeit präsent ist, aber man sich nicht dagegen wehren kann. Ne? Und damit natürlich kommt es zu einem Bruch zwischen der Bevölkerung und den Besatzern, der sich immer mehr verstärkt. Das lässt einen natürlich dann ratlos zurück, weil man sieht, dass zwar quasi auch die westliche Wertegemeinschaft sehr rasch in der Lage war, diesen Konflikt militärisch für sich zu entscheiden, aber dann auf der Zeitachse es nicht geschafft hat, obwohl man es immer beschworen hat, diese Herzen und Köpfe der Menschen zu gewinnen. Und nach 20 Jahren ist der Konflikt zu Ende gegangen. Wir haben ihn verlassen, die Taliban herrschen heute. Also wir haben eigentlich denselben Zustand wie 2001, aber tausende Menschen sind gestorben. Ja. Und die Frage ist, okay, was hat es uns jetzt gebracht?
Military operations seem to prove that robotic systems are ultimately unsuitable for resolving conflicts in a sustainable manner. Nevertheless, that dehumanized security paradigm was eagerly brought back home. Bronx, February 23rd, 2021. A hostage situation needs to be resolved, but responders don't know what's happening inside. They decide to use experimental equipment. It's a decision that sends shockwaves.
That thing is creepy.
I think this example of Boston Dynamics doing a partnership with the NYPD is a perfect example of why the power dynamics matter. At the time, there's all sorts of discussions going on about the relationship of the NYPD with the citizens of New York City. Deploying robots into that context means that context is attached.
If you put a robotic dog on the streets of a wealthy neighborhood, to police that neighborhood explicitly, the backlash the police department would face would be immense. So they chose a neighborhood with people who don't have that much power in society. They framed it as this will help us solve crime in these communities, while ignoring obviously all the other underlying actual causes of crime. Crime has never been caused by the lack of robot dogs. It was just another example of a new technology being created and it immediately being used to oppress people.
If you are wanting to truly put your robots to use in good and really build a positive profile, that may have not been the best time and place to do so. And I think this is another reason why it's good to put these discussions out there, because I think it's important for a given police department to have these conversations, if it's appropriate, to deploy a robot, and in what context are they appropriate.
A wave of outrage ended the NYPD's collaboration with Boston Dynamics. For now. But the technology is already being used in other police departments. In Germany, too. Along with Boston Dynamics, Ghost Robotics is one of the best-known manufacturers of legged robots in the US. Instead of doing dance videos, their robot dog went viral in a 2021 image with a precision gun mounted on its back. What started as a university project evolved into something much bigger when the platform was commercialized. The robot was becoming more robust, stronger, and weatherproof, and it had to have the longest possible battery life. It was an approach that quickly attracted a new customer base. The military invested in early versions, like it did with many other companies.
They just happened to be able to pay for it. The main use case for the Air Force was something that none of us thought would be useful, which is patrolling part of their base. So these are large installations, hundreds of acres. It's got rocks and bushes and trees. And believe it or not, people do wander on.
In a similar use, the robot dogs are also being tested for border patrols. But the technology is attracting interest in other areas as well.
Many of the other government agencies are looking at the robot. You know, the Marines, Army, as well as some of the three-letter agencies. But the robot is categorized as EAR 99. And what that means is we can technically ship the robot anywhere.
Although Ghost Robotics doesn't develop weapons itself, it does not rule out arming their platform.
The US government that supported our existence, they have a right to request what they want. We don't have the capability of making something like that decision, which is where we look more to policymakers and policies that dictate and govern how these technologies can and should be used.
Ukraine, June 2023. Over 460 days at war. A counter-offensive is underway, but it is stuck in the Russian minefields.
Who's out there yelling?
There, Ukrainian tanks are easy targets for artillery, helicopters, and suicide drones. Despite high-tech Western weapons, everything seems to be the same as ever. People die. People kill. Machines are assisting them.
Kriege werden immer schmutzig bleiben Das war ja die große Hoffnung der letzten 20 Jahre, dass der Krieg quasi sauberer werden kann durch den Einsatz von Präzisionswaffensystemen, möglicherweise noch mit einer gewissen Intelligenz ausgestattet. Aber wenn man dann schaut, was die Soldaten dann erleiden vor Ort, dann sieht man, dass der Krieg sich nicht verändert hat. Ich glaube, was also viele erkannt haben, jetzt gerade auch durch diesen Ukraine-Krieg, ist, dass diese Zukunft des Krieges zwar einerseits begleitet ist von technologischen Entwicklungen, die wieder Vorteile für die eine oder andere Kriegspartei quasi herausstellen, aber dass am Ende des Tages der Krieg genau der gleiche schmutzige Krieg bleibt und das Sterben und Leiden genauso gleich ist, wie das vor Hunderten von Jahren der Fall war.
Despite all the promises, AI has not changed the essence of war. Intelligent systems that can merge information and sensor data more efficiently are already used in Ukraine. So far, however, it has only sped up the killing. One example is software from the US company Palantir.
Our role in Ukraine has been widely discussed. Won't say that much about it, but the old way of targeting where you don't use, where algorithms aren't used is clearly a failure. If you go into battle with old school technology, even if you're spending $65 billion a year and you're highly accomplished warfighters like Russia, and you have an adversary that knows how to install and implement digitalized targeting and AI, you obviously are at a massive disadvantage.
In the right hands, targeting software is a powerful tool. But the algorithms needed for it are highly complex and difficult to train. That's because they have to follow countless rules: military, ethical, and international law.
Und da gibt es ja genaue Regeln. Also was darf ich tun? Ja, die Verhältnismäßigkeit zum Beispiel, der Unterscheidungsgrundsatz, der allgemeine Grundsatz der Menschlichkeit zum Beispiel, jemandem Pardon und Gnade zu geben. Die große Frage ist, kann eine Maschine das tun? Da sie doch ja keine Vernunft hat. Ja, sie kann ja die Situation nicht vernünftig bewerten, sondern sie bewertet es rein als Schaltkreis im Wesentlichen. Ja, also so lange drauf schießen, bis er tot ist, der Organismus zum Beispiel, den er hier bekämpft.
In order to prevent the machine from making catastrophic mistakes, a human must always take the ultimate responsibility for all life and death decisions.
We have 12S19 in the open.
In the design of these systems, we need to ensure that humans can meaningfully understand what is happening.
Wenn es spezifisch darum geht, dass man Autonomie, dass man künstliche Intelligenz hat, damit man schneller ist, ist es natürlich ein bisschen absurd, dann am Ende noch einen Menschen reinzusetzen, der dann Ja oder Nein sagen muss, weil man dann die Geschwindigkeit wieder rausnimmt. Denn wenn quasi der Computer alles selber gemacht hat und gesagt hat, das ist das Ziel, ich habe das überprüft aus diesen und jenen Gründen, wie soll der Mensch das noch hinterfragen?
Does the human simply become a cog in an autonomous killing machine?
I'm not so worried about the Terminator scenario. You know, I'm worried about things like flash wars, for example. The concept of a flash war was originally taken from a flash crash, which is when you have a stock market which has a lot of algorithms participating in trading, and something happens, some unforeseen event, and the algorithms crash the stock market.
Die Idee des Flash Wars ist quasi, dass wenn in verschiedenen Ländern, in verschiedenen Staaten sehr autonome Waffensysteme eingesetzt werden, ohne viel menschliche Kontrolle, dass wir dann in eine Situation kommen könnten, in der diese Waffensysteme aufeinander reagieren und damit quasi einen Krieg oder eine militärische Auseinandersetzung auslösen, die man eigentlich gar nicht wollte.
Das Dilemma ist natürlich der Rüstungswettbewerb. Ne? Und wir haben also die Situation, dass quasi, wenn die eine Seite ein System hat, das der anderen überlegen ist, dann versucht natürlich die andere Seite hier nachzuziehen.
Flash wars, the total loss of control, is a horror scenario that must be prevented. The major powers certainly see the risks of this technological development, but escalating saber rattling could elevate the danger to the next level, the nuclear level.
einen Moment des Manhattan-Projekts war es so, oder nicht offiziell, dass die Techniker gesagt haben, naja, wir schaffen da jetzt etwas, mit dem können wir die Welt zerstören. Aber erst nach dem Abwurf der Atomwaffen ist Oppenheimer sehr kritisch mit sich ins Gericht gegangen und hat sich als den Zerstörer der Welten bezeichnet. Ja.
Das Problem ist, dass wir eigentlich noch nicht wissen, welchen Einfluss künstliche Intelligenz im Krieg, aber auch für unsere Gesellschaft ganz allgemein haben wird.
Sometimes we're in a situation where everybody is partially responsible for everything. When it comes to these weapon systems, I think we're headed in that direction. There has to be this sense of stewardship that whatever we design responsibly.